In Shaolin, we have different way of delivering this weapon. Deliver it will have its different effect. All right. So the first weapon we call this one the horizontal fist. If you hold your fist like this and have it flat, we call this the horizontal fist or ram's head, like a batter and ram. All right. Notice how it turns. When you try to strike with it, it turns up an impact. It has a corkscrew effect. Right? The second fist, so that's the first fist. Very crude, right? Crude but effective. What it's doing is teaching you focus. Second fist is what we call the sun fist, vertical fist. So you have the horizontal fist, you have your sun fist, so you have your ram's head. Which is your horizontal fist. You got your sun fist, which is your vertical fist. Alright, notice your ram's head, it will turn give a corkscrew effect when it turns. The sun fist. And notice you have a horizontal turning action taking place. The sun fist, you notice it has a vertical action based on which part of the surface of the fist you're trying to deliver the power from. You can either turn this way or turn this way. Alright, so based on what you're trying to accomplish. The last fist would be, we call this a Chinese fist. And you notice the wrist will turn, it's a flatter fist, but what's good about this, the other two fists, you notice how they are clenched here. Pay a lot of tension in the muscle. This one down. The thumb is laid off to the side. Right? The thumb is laid off to the side to protect the thumb. What's good about this is that you can also use the thumb as a striking surface. This is a female version of this. Alright? So we're going to explore all three of them. But we're going to start first with the ram's head. The most basic punch. So now let's talk about delivering this weapon and how to properly deliver it. We want to deliver the first strike, we want to deliver in the straightest line possible. That's where we want to train this weapon, to travel in a straight line. And it has to turn up a bit. Alright? So the weapon you want this weapon to travel straight, and you want this weapon to turn up an impact, like a corkscrew effect. How will you know that this weapon is traveling straight? Well, there are a couple rules to follow. First thing, after chambering your weapon, as you punch out, you make sure that the elbow is almost brushing the rib cage. You see? If the elbow keeps close to the body when you deliver your weapon, you'll know that line. Then you'll notice that your punch is starting to travel in a straight line. So you keep the elbow down as opposed to out. You want the elbow and the arms brushes the body. Right? So keep the elbow close in. Right? The second thing that you want to do is that you want to make sure that the punch lands in line with the nose. How do we know that punch is landing in line with the nose? Because we want to focus on these first two knuckles. These two knuckles in line with the nose, and the elbow brushes the body, will give you a straight line punch. Okay, so let's talk about how to properly deliver this weapon, the ram's head. All right? Well, the first thing, you have to chamber it right. The chambering of the weapon is very important. In Northern Shaolin, as like other system, we do not chamber from the chest. We chamber from the waist. Reason being, when you chamber from the chest, you raise the tip of the lungs, and you're forced to use just arm and shoulder power. When you chamber from the waist, below the ribs, it forces you to use your legs. And now you have to bring the punch up to bear and lift. So you start practicing a lifting action with your technique. Also, when you chamber from the waist, it forces you to drop the tip of the lungs, open up the dandian, and sink your breathing deeper. It forces you to breathe deeper. from the lower abdomen. So it will help with your breathing, breath work. It's important to understand that when you try to deliver your weapon, you want to deliver it with your whole body. As opposed to rapid strikes, we try to use the whole body to deliver the weapon. We call that a follow-through strike. We're striking beyond the target area. So the whole body then have to be trained, right? The extension of the strike is very important for us. When you try to strike by extending the weapon, you will find that the weapon becomes stronger because now you're not just using your hands, you're using your whole body to strike when you extend the weapon. The next thing about this punch when you try to deliver it is that you want to make sure that the shoulders stay down. Don't raise the shoulder because it locks your power off, right? You want to make sure that the legs, the power is coming from the legs through the waist to the hand. How we do that is, let's do a few of them. So from here you chamber your weapon and you bring it out and turn it up on impact. When you bring the right fist back and exchange from right to left, we call it an exchange of power. All right? So we exchange in power now. But notice how the elbow stay close to the body. Notice when I make contact, you have to visualize a spot, focus on that spot, and work your strike. And when I visualize a spot and focus on it, I want to make sure that the wrist is flat. And if the wrist is bent, when I throw that strike, I'll break the wrist. So now I'm trying to train this weapon properly. And now that for you to do that, you have to follow these basic rules, these protocols. So if you veer from this protocol, then you're not going to be successful in your training. All right, so the next thing we do, if you notice, then there's a point when you punch and you stop. There's a slight pause, right? You're learning how to focus your power, right? This is, when we start from here, this is practice stage. This is not fighting. You're learning how to develop the technique so it can be used in practical application, all right? So this is a proper way of training the weapon so that later on, when you go to applying it, you won't have to think about it. It will be simply, it will take place automatically. So we're developing what we call muscle memory right now. With this exchange of power. You hear them call this movement a reverse punch. Notice I'm doing it standing up, right? Do this technique standing up. Head top suspended. You notice there are three things taking place. You're activating the power, the leg muscles, so you have to grip with the toes so you don't fall forward. All right? You have to have your alignment properly. So you're learning how to adhere to proper structure, alignment. All right? You'll also notice that the waist comes into play. All right? Now the waist comes into play because the waist is very important in releasing the power. All right? So the force starts in the legs. The waist will guide your movement and guiding the movement to release through the fist. If you're looking straight ahead, you'll notice that fist now, that punch should land right in line with the nose. I assume that you already know how to roll a fist. Huh? Do this a few times to really get it. Don't add power yet. It's important when you train to get the feel for the technique before you start to add power to it. All right? Once you get the feel for the technique, usually if you want to get this technique right, we say do it 100,000 times. 100,000 times in any technique, you'll have it. Now, you might think 100,000 times is long, but not really. 100 days, do 1,000 punch a day, you'll have 100,000 punch. Right? You go to punch with that weapon, you won't have to think about it, just happen automatically. Chambering your weapon and guard, fighting from a guarded position is completely different. This is the practice position. This is your fighting position. Right? Now if you can practice from here, hopefully when you go to throw from here, your punch will be twice as fast. If you notice, when I want to hit with this weapon, if I want to move my opponent, there has to be a follow through and release. See that? So if I want to hit him here, I want to do this and release. So you notice his shoulder release into the technique? He pushes me. This would be a good drill to do. You see that? See the punch turns? See the punch turns up on impact? He's going to add a little resistance. And notice how the punch is turning. What happens is this. When the punch is turning and he's adding resistance, I'm forced to use my legs. You see? And that's your perfect example of a reverse punch. And you'll notice now that you start to use your waist. The shoulders has to release into the punch and the legs have to be activated. Alright, so that's a good way to get a feel if you have someone to train with, you know, to get a feel as to what this punch is supposed to do when you're starting to apply it. Okay, now that you understand how to deliver the weapon, some of the basic mechanics of the weapon, keeping the hands in close to the body, the punch traveling in a straight line possible, release through the fist turn up on the impact, the waist stay relaxed so it can guide the weapon. The weapon starts from the ground up through the hands. Right? Let's talk about grounding the weapon, making this weapon stronger. In order for you to make this weapon stronger, the whole body has to come into play. How do we do that? We utilize stances. Stances are very important in our system because it builds condition, focus, and discipline. That's how we trigger the weapon, that's how we strengthen the weapon, and that's how martial art becomes a science, because we use the body to condition the body, as opposed to weights and what have you. We don't take shortcuts, we do it properly. Now if you do it properly, when you do it right, it will develop properly, and then you'll have longevity. Utilize the proper protocol for training, and you'll have longevity in your martial art journey. So now the first stance we work is what we call the Mabu stance, horse riding posture. Remember I was telling you how the waist, you chamber from the waist, and how the legs come into play? Well, when you chamber from the waist, you know you get a chance to feel what the weapon, the power from the weapon, you'll feel it in your body first. You'll feel it in the legs. Alright? Remember we said that the force does not start in the arms, but it starts in the legs. So you get a chance to see what's supposed to take place down here. Alright? This will develop grounding, build your root, develop strength in the legs, lower your center of gravity so when you punch, you see that the ground comes into play. Alright? The ground also comes into play when you strike. You can be able to push off something. And this is how you do it. You learn to build this. You're not going to fight from here. This is where you're trained. This is the position you train from. And this is how you develop. And now we can start adding the strike. Right? You notice from this position also, if you try to punch and lean over, you fall off balance. So it helps you develop good posture when you strike. You can tummy in. And now you start to work this movement. You want to do as many of them as you can. You know? Usually if you can sit in this position, say for 5 minutes, you get a full workout. So you can do single punch. Right? You can do double it up. You can triple it up. You notice the waist come into play. You start to get good breathing. You activate your breathing, natural breathing, to go along with the movement. You start getting stronger. The longer you sit there, your focus and your concentration will be better. And now you start to work, start to get a feel what it is to develop good martial art technique. Right? Don't forget to subscribe. Right? Until next time we're going to cover some more basic application. We didn't cover the sun fist. We just talked about the ram's head to build coordination. We talk about the stance to build balance. focus and concentration, and how to start to deliver the weapon. Next time we'll talk about the different types of power, all right? Different ways of getting power. Rising to get power, sinking to get power, turning to get power, and we'll add them to the stance. If you approach the art properly, you'll find out you will develop properly at a slow, steady pace. You'll advance properly, and you'll be in good health, good state of mind. Don't forget to subscribe. Click on the link below to get our exercise DVD.